To start with, I will just briefly explain about the e-government. E-government generally is the use of IT in order to enhance the public service delivery in terms of quality, availability, accessibility, and affordability. Kwa hiyo pale tunaposema kwamba we are going to improve the public service delivery kwa kutumia tehama ndani ya serikali, hiyo ndio inamaanisha e-government. Lakini sasa katika kufanya katika implementation ya e-government kuna 4 pillars ambazo kwa namna moja au nyingine zenyewe ndo zinawezesha ile e-service kuweza kufanyaje kutokea. Na miongoni mwa hizo pillars kuna a proper governance. Lakini first of all we need to have legal framework or legal requirements ambazo kwa namna moja au zingine zenyewe ndo zitakuwa zina govern na control the overall implementation of e-government ndani ya serikali. Na mtaona right now we have multiple policies, lakini pia we have National ICT Policy of 2016 and right now it's under review of ICT Policy 2023, but also we have a drafting e-government policy. We also have e-government act of number 10 of 2019, but also we have cybercrime acts. We have several acts ambazo zina govern eneo zima la tehama ndani ya serikali. Lakini pia another building block ambayo ni fundamental katika implementation ya e-government, tunaye proper governance structure ambao from day one tulisikia wale old gurus wa tehama ambao wenyewe walikuwa ni I can say waanzilishi wa tehama ndani ya serikali walituambia kabisa having a strong IT governance is a crucial ili kuhakikisha kwamba the implementation of ICT ndani ya serikali ama ndani ya nchi yetu inafanyika in a proper manner. Kwa hiyo ukiangalia ndani ya serikali we have a National Steering Committee ambayo yenyewe ina govern overall implementation ya tehama ndani ya serikali, lakini vile vile we have a e-government technical committee, na katika hii National Steering Committee ambaye anaichea ni Chief Secretary, lakini pia we have public permanent secretaries kutoka katika various ministry ambao wenyewe wana sit katika hiyo National Steering Committee. But also we have a e-government technical committee, na ukienda pia katika level ya institution we have institution ICT steering committee. Lakini pia act imerecognize kwamba kila public institution inatakiwa kuestablish ICT unit or directorate. Kwa sasa utaona ni kwa namna gani ndani ya serikali wame acknowledge uwepo wa governance structure, proper governance structure ili kuweza kusaidia katika implementation ya tehama. Lakini pia ndani yake we have infrastructure ambao ni block nyingine, na katika infrastructure tuna ile miundombinu ambao ni ya ndani, lakini pia tuna ile miundombinu ambao ni critical kama fiber, wakisema kwamba yenyewe ndio inawezesha mawasiliano ya tehama ndani ya serikali. Lakini another building block we have applications. Kwa hiyo tunasema kwamba unaweza ukawa una application, unaweza ukawa una sheria, unaweza ukawa una governance. If you don't have a proper infrastructure, ina maana kwa namna moja au nyingine inaweza isifanye tusifikie yale malengo ya kuwa na national digital. Next please. Kwa hiyo nimesema kwamba nimetoka mamlaka ya serikali mtandao. Mamlaka ya serikali mtandao it's a public institution ambayo imeanzishwa na e-Government Act number 10 of 2019, ikiwa mandated katika ku-oversee, ku-promote, lakini pia ku-coordinate the implementation of e-government initiative. Lakini kubwa zaidi ni katika kufanya enforcement of e-government related policies, act or laws, standard and guidelines ndani ya public institutions too. Kwa hiyo the scope of EGA ni public institution only. Next please. Hii ndo building block ambayo nilikuwa nimeielezea, ambayo kwa namna moja au nyingine ndo inaenda kusaidia katika e-service delivery. Lakini mwisho wa siku pia tunapata matokeo like having an improved public service, ambazo all services ambazo zinakuwa offered ndani ya serikali zinakuwa ni accessible, lakini pia ni affordable, lakini pia ni reliable na convenient. At the same time zinakuwa zina high quality. Lakini pia we are improving our business environment kwa kuweka vitu kuwa ambavyo vinakuwa kuna transparent, lakini pia efficiency, increase efficiency and accountability. But the other area, we are optimizing the use of resources across the government in terms of human resource, in terms of financial, as well as in terms of ICT infrastructure as whole. And the other area, we are improving the overall government revenue collection. We all understand right now the revenue collection ya government inafanyika through GPG, ni cashless. Kwa there is no way unaweza ukawa unapoteza mapato. Next please. Kwa hiyo hii ni overall concept pia ya e-government kwa ujumla, kwa maana ya kwamba tuna platform ambayo hapo iko ndani ya serikali, miundombinu ambayo iko, na utaona kuna systems, kuna infrastructures ambazo ziko hapo katikati, lakini pia kuna interaction na public to public institutions, lakini pia government ina interact na citizen katika kupata hizo services, lakini pia government ina interact na business, wafanya biashara, ili kuhakikisha ile huduma ambayo inatakiwa kutolewa kwa wananchi inatolewa kwa namna ambayo ni rahisi, lakini huduma ambayo ikiwa ina quality. Tunaona pia ni namna gani government ina interact na hizi kama like financial institutions kama bank, lakini vile vile na hizi telecommunication companies. Katika kuimplement ICT in the government, huwa tuna multiple ama various standard and guidelines ili kuhakikisha sasa utekelezaji unakuwa in a coordinated manner, kwa maana ya kwamba hauwezi tu ukaachia kila mtu akatekeleza tehama kwa namna ambavyo anavyoona. So we usually issue those standard and guidelines ambazo they are publicly available in our IGA website. So anyone who is intending to work with the government, he or she can just go or visit the e-government website in the section of standard and guidelines and get understanding of what how implementation ya tehama inatakiwa kuwa ndani ya serikali. So I encourage everyone, both public and private, to go through the standard and guidelines to ensure the implementation of e-government comply the standards and the guidelines. Tunasema kwamba ndani ya serikali, tunasema kwamba ndani ya serikali we need to have mifumo ambayo ina exchange na sharing ya data, ambayo pia tumekuwa mkiona hata Mheshimiwa Rais pia amekuwa akitoa maelekezo kwamba mifumo ndani ya serikali inatakiwa kuongea. Lakini pia so far kitu ambacho kimefanywa na serikali kupitia mamlaka ya serikali mtandao, imeweza kudesign, kudevelop na ku-operationalize a platform specifically for electronic data sharing and exchange. Na hii kitu pia ni katika parti ya implementation ya matakwa ya kisheria, ambao ukienda katika sheria ya serikali mtandao kifungu namba 48 kifungu kidogo namba 2, utaona kimeelekeza mamlaka ya serikali mtandao to develop and manage the exchange and sharing platform. And right now tayari kuna mifumo ambao ni zaidi ya 80 imeanza kufanya sharing and exchange ya information katika kupitia hiyo platform, na tunaendelea kuweka more effort kuhakikisha kwamba mifumo yote ambayo iko ndani ya serikali inaweza kufanyaje, inaweza ku-exchange na kushare information. It was presented na director wa tehama kutoka Wizara ya Mawasiliano kwamba this platform ipo ndani ya government, na tunaita GovESB kwa maana ya Government Enterprise Service Bus, lakini pia we are expecting kuwa na a national platform ambayo sasa itasaidia exchange na sharing of information between the public and the private. Next please. Hapo tunaona ni namna gani mwananchi wa kawaida anaenjoy katika kupata hizo service za serikali. Kwa hiyo right now if you want to get any service, like if you want to buy luku, you don't need to go to Mangi's shop and buy luku. You can just buy luku wherever you are by using your phone, not necessarily to be a smartphone. You can even use your kisoswadu if you have. Just dial *152*00#. You get all government service that are provided through that platform. Kwa hiyo tusijipe stress kwamba I need to have a smartphone. Hata kama una kiswaswadu, popote ambapo upo, sehemu yoyote, hata kama ni remote area, you can just access the platform and get the service as intended. So nikienda straight katika e-government and imaging technologies, kama nilivyokuwa nimesema kwamba serikali haijaachwa nyuma katika matumizi ya imaging technologies. Kwa upande wa IGA, we have e-government research, innovation and development center ambayo ipo Dodoma, UDOM, na kazi kubwa ya hii center ni kufanya various researches, lakini pia different innovations. Na center hii mamlaka inashirikiana na both public na private institutions. So far tunayo MOU between IGA pamoja na 15 higher learning institutions kwa ajili ya kufanya hizo research tofauti including imaging technologies research. Yes, we understand developed countries wanatumia sana imaging technologies, lakini pia zikija katika nchi zetu za developing country, we need to make sure we start na kuangalia how the imaging technologies can fit our local context. Na katika hii center ndo where we have youth. Tuna vijana wengi sana ambao wapo pale wanafanya kazi katika hii center, ambao wana bring up their innovative ideas, na kuna vitu vingi sana ambavyo vinafanyika kupitia vijana mbalimbali. Lakini pia it's a place ambayo tumekuwa tukishirikiana hata na wanafunzi ambao wanafanya PhD studies ama master studies specifically katika eneo la TEHAMA kwa ujumla. Next please. So tutaona roles za Research, Innovation and Development Center. Among them ni kuwa na one-stop shop kwa ajili ya research na development kama ambavyo nilivyokuwa nimeelezea hapo awali. Lakini pia mtaona right now wangapi, how many are aware about imrejesho? Imrejesho ni mfumo ambao tunatumia kwa ajili ya kutoa feedback ndani ya serikali. If you have any concern, if you have any complaint, hata kama ukiwa unapongezi kwa huduma ambazo zinatolewa, you can just use the imrejesho platform and provide your feedback. Lakini pia kuna mikutano. Wangapi wamewahi kutumia mikutano? It's a platform like Zoom or Skype. Wangapi wamewahi kutumia mikutano? Pia those products are among the solutions ambazo zimezaliwa ndani ya hii center, na ambazo wamezizalisha ni hawa youth, young innovators ambao tunao ndani ya nchi yetu. Na you can just see even in e-government act ime-recognize na ime-emphasize the use ya matumizi ya application ambao ni homegrown solutions. Ime-embrace homegrown solutions. Ni zile solution ambazo zinatengenezwa ndani ya nchi, either na public or private sector, as long as zimetengenezwa ndani ya nchi yetu Tanzania. Kwa hiyo kuna recognition hiyo katika regulation. Lakini pia ime-embrace kutumia technology neutral solution ili tusiweze kujibana katika certain technology. Kwa hiyo imetupa provision like kuhakikisha kwamba the technologies we are going to use in the government, tuhakikishe kwamba they are neutral solution. They don't depend to any certain technology, or they don't depend to any certain vendor. And kitu kingine ambacho ni muhimu, pia regulation imerecognize matumizi ya open source technologies, open source softwares, among which pia hata imaging technologies are part of open source softwares. But the other thing ni kwamba there is a linkage between government and industry, because tunajua right now, and academic, tunajua right now the way ambavyo curriculum zetu zipo in our universities or in our colleges, at some point they are not linked directly to the industry requirements. So through the center, we are just link the government, the industry, and the academia. The other thing, we are providing mentorship and internship kwa young vijana wadogo, kwa maana ya kwamba we have youngs ambao huwa wanafanya pale like wanakuja like industrial attachment specifically for their practical training, but also we have wale startups ambao wana innovation zao, wana volunteer kuwork in our center. So anyone ambayo yuko interested kuwork na sisi, tunamkaribisha anytime. Tupo wazi. Next please. Okay. Ukiangalia key stakeholders, tuna researchers, tuna innovators, tuna developers, lakini pia we are working with the students and these public higher learning institutions, as well as public and private institutions. Next please. How do you connect with the eGov RIDC Center? Tunayo a platform ambayo tunaita Ubunifu Portal. You can just access via that link. If you go through that link, you will see how you can connect through the RIDC Center. For researchers, there's a way you can apply, you can select, you can provide feedback. For young innovators, pia ni same, lakini pia mwisho wa siku you can even trace the progress of any technology or any project that is going on katika muda huo. Next please.
I hope this is the last slide.
Yeah. 2 more slides. Okay, katika e-government pia kama nilivyokuwa nimesema, among the imaging technologies ambazo zimezalishwa katika center yetu, tunaye blockchain infrastructure, ambao katika blockchain infrastructure tumeweza kutengeneza a blockchain network development kuhakikisha kwamba hizi imaging technology ama blockchain applications zina communicate through that infrastructure ambayo inaitwa Alpha Chain network, na you can access the Alpha Chain through that URL. But also we have some other blockchain applications like secure document. You can just also go through our platform and get more information regarding. There are some ongoing researches ambazo ziko specifically katika digital currency, katika FINTECH ambayo e-wallet is part of it, pamoja na digital identity. Those are among the research that are going on in our research center. The other area, machine learning and artificial intelligence, pia kuna some applications nyingi ambazo tumeweza kuzitengeneza, lakini some of them ni chat AI, and I want to like tell you kwamba hii chat AI ina work same like chat GPT, but kitu ambacho tumekifanya, tumetranslate, tumefanya katika Swahili version. So the natural language processing ambayo inatumika katika hizi AI application ni Kiswahili, ili kuwawezesha hata Mtanzania yule ambayo haelewi English ama the other language anaweza aka-access ama akatumia EA technologies kwa kutumia lugha yetu pendwa ya Kiswahili. Lakini pia we have a webguard ambao tunatumia specifically katika kufanya monitoring ya security katika upande wa AI technologies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
One second please. I want to kumalizia hapa, tunaye kaka kuona web guide ambayo iko public available. Anyone anaweza akaingia na ikamuonesha ni namna gani we are doing hizi monitoring. Thank you so much. Asante sana.
Thank you very much for that. A big hand for the lady. Please have a seat here. So now we know how eGov works. Think about it, and then we'll have a question for her. Christoph, karibu sana, welcome. The world of the metaverse.
Good morning, everyone. Metaverse, artificial intelligence. There are two buzzwords, isn't it? To me, they're part of something bigger. While I'm waiting for the slides. So who am I? I'm Christoph. I live in Zanzibar and spend time here in Tanzania. I think this is a wonderful country where so many things are happening, everything is alive. And I'm very inspired to be here and see how beautiful things are happening, like in the previous presentation. It's incredible to see how many things are already here. Now, if you think about AI, metaverse, to me, they're just tools. There are new ways, just like blockchain at one point in time was a hype, right? There are new ways how we can help ourselves and the people around us to come into a better digital future. So I've prepared a couple of slides, but I'm waiting for our friends if they can bring them. Guys, can you give some slides there, please? So I was lucky. When I came out of university, the internet was just starting. And the internet had this huge promise. Okay? Can we imagine today living without the internet? Would you prefer losing your internet or electricity right now? Who would rather lose electricity than internet for a couple of hours? Right? So we don't want to lose internet. It became so important. But what if I tell you that today in Tanzania we don't have our own internet? What do you think about that statement? It's a heavy statement, right? Not sure where we're going, but can you go back to the beginning, please, of the presentation? No, that's the presentation from yesterday. Can you take the one I gave you this morning, please? Okay, we wait while the slides will come. So I'm saying that we don't have an internet here. What does that mean? What is an internet? What is AI? Where does it run? Today, the internet, most people think about the internet like the cables. And if I make the statement, we don't have an internet, people sometimes go to the phone and they say, no, I have an internet here, look on my phone, that's my internet. Yes, that's the access to the internet with applications and your data, but you are the internet. And today, everything you do on a daily basis, it's run in data centers. Your data is somewhere in the US or somewhere in Europe. You exist 100 times on the internet. Is it easy today to navigate it? If you want to send a simple message, you need to know, is it WhatsApp? Is it Telegram? Is it SMS? Is it email? That's not easy, right? If today you go to AI and you type something in that box, it basically flies to a huge server park in the US and you get an answer. The information being put there is information prepared by companies which are not in your own country and they don't know much about you. What the results you're going to get are not localized. They don't know your culture. And the same thing is for Metaverse. Metaverse at the end, it's just another interface. If we use web or we use Metaverse or we use virtual reality, augmented reality, whatever, they're all beautiful ways how to interact with an internet. But there is one huge problem. We don't have that internet in our country. Please go on to the next slides. Yeah, that's the wrong slides too. Guys, I sent you the slides this morning. Okay, I continue without slides then. So, Metaverse, AI, it's all beautiful, but what if I make the next statement which you won't believe? I believe that today, here in Tanzania, you're losing more than $10 billion per year for not having your own internet. Who believes that? No one. Okay, let me do the reverse then. Who doesn't believe that we lose $10 billion per year on the internet? Okay, some. Why is that? Do you know the value of your digital life? There are people saying that today our value of a digital life is more than $10,000 a year. Maybe in Africa it's less, but let's say it's $500 or $1,000 per year. This is how the internet works today. You have Facebook, Google, Uber, you exist many, many times. And we have a long cable going to the internet, and everything you do, next slide please, is not here. If two people of you use the Zoom as an example, that's just an example, do you know and realize that you travel out of the country? You go over very expensive lines all the way into Europe. There you would be connected and you would come all back. Do you think that's logical? Would you take your energy, your electricity from thousands of kilometers away? No, you wouldn't do that. It doesn't make sense. So how come we don't do that ourselves in our own country for the internet? Next slide, please. Imagine, I have to improvise a little bit, but imagine we go back into the future of 30 years ago, where no one had to be scared on the internet, where the internet was this huge vision of unlimited potential. And I'm sure some of you remember that. It was an incredible moment. And if we look today of what the internet became, it's a little bit different. We don't have it in our own country, and a lot of money is being lost. The next slide, please. So what if we do things differently? What if we create our own internet in this country all together, and we have it based on a set of other values, rather than relying on third parties, rather than relying on other countries, rather than relying on big external organizations far away? Why don't we create everything we need in our own country, Tanzania or Zanzibar? This is possible. And what if we put another set of values in there? What if in everything we do, we put the planet first? And I'm very proud to see that here in Tanzania, you're already doing that. You have more than 30% of your land already protected for the animals to thrive. That's amazing. And that nature is growing. And so many things I heard today and yesterday all have that already in your programs about your respect for Mother Earth, for the planet. But what if we put ourselves first as well? Now, there are 3 tools we would like to suggest we put in everything we create: authenticity, open source, and simplicity. And let me elaborate on it. Open source has been mentioned a couple of times the last days. It's a very important tool. In my own past, my own history, we've sold many companies, and all of them were open source based. Because sometimes people think, yeah, but if it's open source, you can't make money on it. But that's not true. You just need to know how to do it. But if you do open source, you basically have all the knowledge in your country for the people to further work on. So this is something we believe is super important, embracing open source everything. And open source doesn't mean it has to be less good. We believe it can be as good, and a lot of things have already been developed, which we are here to make available for everyone who wants to. And we're working together with the government already today to make that possible. Another thing is simplicity. Do you guys think that the current internet is easy? You have to be an expert how to use these tools, and lots of times these tools are made by engineers for engineers, and they're too complicated. If we want everyone to use them, we have to hugely simplify the way how that technology is created. We have to throw out a lot of code and restart and make things much more simple. You don't have to exist 100 times. You need to exist once and be the center of your own internet. And last but not least, if today you go to an AI or you surf on the new metaverse and you get access to information, how do you know that information is authentic? So often, the information is just nonsense. And especially in AI, there is a lot of delusions right now. There's a big chance that you will have information which is not correct. And if then people start using that information as the truth, it's very dangerous and difficult. We need a new internet where authenticity, the fact that we know where the information comes from, that we know that people are taking responsibility for that information, and we know that information comes out of our own country, and it integrates our own culture. This, I believe, is an important element. Next slide, please. The next one. Yeah, this is an old deck from yesterday. But basically, we have a vision. And the vision is that from out of Tanzania, together with the government, together with the startups, together with you, we build a vision where we inspire ourselves. Because that's really important. We don't have to look for information and knowledge outside. We have to look at ourselves. We have to endorse open source. We have to inspire our peers. We have to trust our startups to do well. Because that's a problem, I know. We work with some startups, we talk with them. You have amazing young people, but they need to have a chance to deploy their solutions. These solutions need to be sustainable. They need to empower women. And most important, they need to be in your country. It's not about using a ChatGPT somewhere far away. It's not about making a deal with a company outside of your own country. It's about together developing your own infrastructure, your own applications, so that your data can stay local, and it can be done. And you know what? It can be done for a price you might think which is impossible. It only has to cost dollars per month to have everything inside of your country. And if you're interested, we can show you calculations that actually Tanzania can save tens of billions of dollars by doing so. No money has to go outside. A lot of money can come back inside the country, and that money can be used to empower your own digital future. Thank you very much for your time.
A big hand. Wow, you must have had a timer, exactly 12 minutes. That's a question. Thank you very much for that. I like the way you said empower women. Women are very, very important, you know, and data should stay local. So, Mr. Desmond Moshi, AI and Metaverse, please give us your presentation before. Karibu.
So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Desmond Mushi. Ni Mtanzania, mzaliwa wa Kilimanjaro. Familia inaishi Dar es Salaam, lakini mimi naishi Nairobi na ni shabiki nambari moja wa Yanga. Na beyond that, where I'm employed, ironically after Christoph's presentation, I work for Meta. And Meta, as some of you would know or not, is a company that previously used to be known as Facebook. And so it's the company that owns the platforms such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, and the fifth one, the new Threads. How many people are on Threads, if at all? So very few people. How many people are on Instagram? I think the most used in Tanzania. But so I'm Desmond, and I'm a public policy manager. And really my role as a public policy manager is to understand frustrations and challenges that Christoph has highlighted here, you know, that the opportunities that Tanzania has for big tech or a company like Meta, but also similarly to convey to you some of the opportunities that a company like Meta would have for a country like Tanzania. And as I said, I'm a public policy manager. I cover East and Horn of Africa. And so that's the countries you know within East Africa, as well as countries like Eritrea, Ethiopia, I think Somalia and South Sudan. My presentation has two parts. Nitaenda haraka kidogo. The first part really is about AI, and I think a lot, based on what I've seen from the agenda, a lot of these things have been said in the past, but the world has changed from mainframe computing to almost portable computing. Now you can do a lot of things with a phone, whilst 50 years ago you had to go to a place to almost engage with a computer. We moved from a mainframe computer, which was physical, to almost something portable that you could move to now really, really portable that you can actually carry on your phone. But also we moved from being abject consumers of content, ulikuwa unaenda sehemu unatizama labda kama ni Wikipedia unapata kila kitu pale, to now being active content creators. So everyone now can create their own content, which wasn't possible a number of years ago. Naomba tuende haraka haraka kidogo. So I'll talk about the AI first, then Metaverse, and I'll focus on areas that maybe haven't been discussed. And so really at Meta, and Meta, as I said, is Facebook. AI has been fundamental since 2006 when Facebook was first founded. And Number tuendelee. And so the definition has been given. What AI is really machines that are able to do what ordinarily you would expect of human beings. So really that's what artificial intelligence is. And based on the discussions that have been had in the past couple of days, I don't have to repeat this. Number tuendelee. And I'll just talk a few things about how Meta uses AI. So when you go on Facebook, for example, there's a number of ways in which we use artificial intelligence. The first and the most obvious one, mbele kidogo, is on content moderation. So if you see content that is not particularly helpful for human consumption, a lot of these things are detected by artificial intelligence. So, child pornography, for example, terrorism content, and a lot of things like that are things that we can detect proactively and remove. So kuna maudhui mengi mabaya sana ambayo hayafiki hata kwenye macho yetu simply because they are removed by artificial intelligence. The second bit, naomba uende slide inayofuata. Naomba urudi nyuma kidogo. One. Yes. The second bit is on feeds. So the content that you tend to see when you go on Facebook or Instagram, the things that maybe your friends have posted or, groups or pages that you follow are things that are determined really by artificial intelligence based on where you are and your experiences and things that you prefer to see. There's other things that we use machine learning for, and that's ads. At the moment you can actually almost configure your ads in a manner that the ad can actually, AI can now prescribe and tell you what would be great for you and how you can actually improve your ad. You can actually go as far as changing a background, for example, to choosing a different background that would be more conducive for the audience that you're looking for. Next slide. So AI has been transformative. I think this has been discussed maybe in scientific discovery, in productivity gains, but as well as safety improvements, as I've mentioned, the way we use it for content moderation. Next slide. And there's a number of, large language models that Meta has given out to the public, and it's open source. So the theme about open source that the past two speakers have been talking about is consistent with what Meta believes, that you can build the technology, make it available to people so that people can piggyback on it and go and innovate on it as opposed to starting from scratch. And this is available, especially for research institutions. So really, it's an area that partnerships can be created. Next slide. I think there's a number of areas that have been highlighted as challenges, and especially from a big tech perspective. And the ones that I really wanted to talk about, the first is robustness. And, when you think about robustness, is actually being able, or diversity, is to think about fairness and inclusion or diversity, ensuring that the content or the things that you see through artificial intelligence are things that resonate with your own experiences. I think Christoph talked about diversity, that what is it like to be a Zanzibari or a Tanzanian, or a Kenyan for that particular matter, and what might the differences in Mombasa and Nairobi mean to the content that you see online. And really the one thing that I can say about this, mimi nitaambieni ukweli, I think when products are developed, whoever the engineers are developed for whatever, the purpose can be whatever they want it to be. For you to be part and make sure that those innovations actually serve you, you need to make sure that the data that feeds the machines, the algorithms, is the data that also comes from our own experiences. So it's really having good quality data that is consistent, that is usable, both for innovators within Tanzania, but also for large players that are innovating for the globe. So really data is really, really key, but also there's a lot of things that we can talk about transparency and control, about safety. For example, although we have open source technology like Llama, there is a technology that we developed that hasn't been allowed to the public. And what he was able to do ni kwamba mtu mmoja akiweza kuongea kama engineer Mulamula, inaweza ikashika sauti yake alafu ikarudia hiyo sauti yake kwa maneno yoyote ile almost perfectly. And of course that's not really, really good because of how it could be misused. So it wasn't allowed or to be shared openly because of safety concerns. So before we can actually allow anything to go out to the public, it is tested within a particular framework so that we have safety guardrails around it. Next slide. So the second bit, and the last bit that I'll say about artificial intelligence, when you think about safety, and regulating, it's really to think about, can you create an environment where you can test some of these innovations before they go out? Instead of curtailing what can and cannot happen, you can create a space where you test them out. really you prototype and that allows you to see some of the risks and address them or think about ways to address them beforehand. There's two models that we have within the world, in the world at the moment. There's the model that you say, this is what you can and cannot do. There's a country that does that. I don't need to mention that. There's another model, which is industry creating guidelines that they'll follow to ensure that these innovations are safe for consumptions across the world. So the latter is something that we as Meta would support as well. Next slide. So really, I'll go very, very quickly about the metaverse. The metaverse, naomba tuende haraka haraka kidogo kwa sababu ya kuokoa muda. Really is a set of experiences and technologies. Really being able to be in a more immersive experience. To be in a place as though you are physically there, but you are there only virtually. You know, we could have this conference maybe in 2 years in a virtual setup. We could all choose to join Christoph Zanzibar, you know, virtually and have that experience feel as though we are really, really present in, you know, a part of Zanzibar that maybe Christoph lives, maybe Stone Town, I don't know where else, or Paje or something like that. So that's what a metaverse allows you to do. There is both like augmented as well as virtual reality. Naomba tuende haraka haraka kidogo. So really the metaverse, as I said, just endelea, nitakwambia wakati wa kusimama. Please, yes, just, so as I said, there is extended reality, keep going. I think these have been, you know, the definitions have been given in the past. Augmented reality is basically overlaying. Is on top of a particular technology, you can see something. So 3D experiences and things like that. We have them in Tanzania at the moment with QR codes. We have them with people who are doing construction and things like that to be able to see things in 3D. So that's really, really present. Naomba tuendelee. Virtual reality is also very present. Nadhani ni mwaka jana, kama sio mwaka huu, wizara ya, nadhani kama sikosei ni nishati, you know, was able to show what is happening at, you know, Julius Nyerere, you know, hydroelectric power dam in a virtual setup kwa wabunge wakati wa the bunge sessions. So this is really you being able to feel as though you are present in that particular location. Keep going. So what are the use cases? And so I'll spend like 3 or 4 minutes to talk about use cases. The first is immersive learning. You know, there's ways in which learning can happen now that wasn't possible before. Kwa wale tuliosoma kama mimi, zamani nilikuwa nasoma na kitu kinaitwa alternative to practical. Kama shule yenu ilikuwa haina, you know, a lab ambayo ilikuwa fully equipped, unafanya alternative to practical. So you remember what would happen if you put iodine on, you know, carbohydrates. At the moment, or maybe for physics as well. There's a lot of things that we did alternatively because we couldn't do them practically. Now, with virtual reality, you really do not need to actually have a setup kama, you know, lab. You can actually do that in a virtual setup and have people feel, you know, and understand much better than would be the case otherwise. Keep going. There's ways in which this has been, you know, tried in a country like United States, digital campuses. So you can have, for example, you know, what is one of the campus, UDOM, and have people join and be present at UDOM in a virtual setup. So a lot of universities now are digitizing what that university experience would feel like, and so people can be present and interact and exchange ideas in a virtual setup. So that's one. The other one is emergency preparedness. So you can teach people how to take care of emergency situations without necessarily having to go, you know, you can't have a lot of fatal accidents to try on, but you can do that in a virtual setup without necessarily causing any consequences that might come with things going wrong. Keep going. So medical training is another, very similar to emergency setups. Keep going. Work development learning, you know, for example, for people in mining, there's a lot of safety concerns when it comes to working in mines, so there's ways in which people can actually be taught, you know, and onboarded in a virtual setup that is a much better and more enriching experience than to actually be, you know, to do that within a mine setup. Advocacy is another. WHO actually was able to raise a lot of money, close to, I can't remember the actual number, really by allowing would-be contributors to experience what it's like to be in Syria, you know, especially at the time of COVID-19. So it's to allow people to almost feel that experience in a very, very different way. Keep going. So globally, this is a huge, huge, huge economy, I think, as Christoph was alluding to as well, and there's a lot of opportunities for Tanzania to meaningfully realize that economy. It's, you know, close to 3 trillion. It's growing at almost close to, you know, 3%. So it's a huge opportunity. There's a lot of things that can be done to allow for that opportunity to be realized. Keep going. Governments have a role to play, really, and go to the next slide, and I'll just talk about this. Really is creating an enabling environment. And there's various ways in which you can do that, you know, the infrastructure, ensuring that we have protocols and standards in place, but ensuring that there would be innovators actually, you know, almost coordinate in such a way that they get to understand each other, they can exchange ideas, not just within Tanzania, but within the region and across the world, but also being able to share some of those experiences and keep going. And it takes an ecosystem. So that's the last thing, maybe the last thing that I'll talk about is really takes the ecosystem. If you only silo yourself in a particular location and you are not aware of what others are doing in different spaces, the creators, the platforms, having connectivity, meaningful connectivity, but also those who have devices, it's really, really important that all of them are part and parcel of a discussion. Because really that's what it means to innovate, whether you are government as IGA, or you are a platform like Meta, or a local innovator like Honor Stories in Tanzania that are doing really meaningful work in the XR space. And
1 minute.
Yes. So the last slide, I think actually this should bring me to the end of my presentation. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. That's one hand. So now, if you have problems with WhatsApp and Facebook, you know who to see. He's seated right over there. Anyway, thank you very much for that. At least I was interested in terms of AI and content management. That's very key. Maybe we could use it in terms of, no, I shouldn't go there. Anyway, for the sake of time, is there a question from the audience? Does anyone have a question? We can entertain at least 2 or 3 questions. While you're thinking about it, Christoph, well, before I come to you, we are joined by Engineer Rico here. He's the director of IGA. So if he can introduce himself and also tell us a little bit about imaging at your R&D center, and what have they done in imaging, and see whether it can be linked towards the issues of metaverse or AI from what you think. Please, Karibu. 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mulamula. Good morning. My name is Rico Boma. I'm from e-Government Authority as a director of ICT Service Management. And as it has been introduced, at e-Government we have a research and innovation center that is in Dodoma. And we work on different spectrum of technologies. But for this particular panel, I'll focus on the emerging technologies, where we do research and innovation in areas of artificial intelligence, of machine learning, Internet of Things, the blockchain technologies. And just to give some of the examples, from the part of the blockchain, we have managed to build our own alpha blockchain network that we have developed blockchain applications which are running on top of our blockchain network. And we have applications like secure documentation, which is a way to secure any kind of documents on any formats. But also in terms of machine learning and artificial intelligence, we have applications like the Chat AI, which is the version of like GPT, Chat GPT, but in terms of the local content, in terms of the using the Swahili language. But also, when you look at the area of Internet of Things, we have an electronic lab that we have done projects like assembling the microchips and having a project like smart meters that can be used for water authorities, or some research and innovation that can be used for electricity meters. So this is still work in progress, but there is that capability. And we have even managed to assemble some small gadgets, for example, the biometric attendance register that can be used by either fingerprints and facial expressions for the administering the attendance of either if it's workers or students. So we have look into the emerging technologies and see how we can make them applicable by utilizing the local talents from students. And we had students who are some from primary school, some from secondary school, but we go to the ones who are in universities, who are doing practical trainings, but also we have to hire ones who are doing master's and PhD programs. So we have a wide coverage. As long as anyone who is interested in research and innovation, we welcome all at the center. And as a brief, I would like to stop here.
Thank you very much. Christoph, you talked about the internet being a person's digital life, and it's the data about the person on the internet. And then you also said internet, we are losing money. Can you link the two in terms of data and how, let's say, a startup or some people can make money with regards to the internet and the apps that can be done in that space?
Thank you very much. Amazing question. Yes, so there are two things in there. I think the internet is structured in a weird way. It wasn't intended like that. Now we have all these servers somewhere and these server applications, and we became like a client to that application. So in a way, we are a product to another application. And that application is not in our country. In other words, whatever money we make onto that application for that company goes out of the country. To give you an example, in Zanzibar, which is a touristic island, if you just look at like Airbnb and Uber, or not Uber, but all these other services around tourism, Zanzibar alone loses between $50 and $100 million per year, just on that little fact, the fact that that money goes out of the country. So imagine that we as Tanzania, Zanzibar, with the local startups, have the ability to develop our own set of applications, so we don't need decentralized applications anymore, then that money would just stay here. Now, there is an easy way how to do that, because right now our data exists 100 times. For every company we exist again. And that leads to a lot of overhead, and it makes things very complicated. What if we turn that around, that we become the center of our digital life, basically physically, but also inside the country somewhere we exist, and we are the center, and everyone building something on top, or the government working with us, or the banks working with us, would literally be working with us, just like we do in real life. If we go somewhere, we go as a person. But that's not the case on the internet. So what if we can make that the same? Just like we would do in real life. We exist digitally, we own that digital existence, not like an algorithm, not owned by someone else, not even on blockchain, because blockchain is often also too centralized and not scalable enough. But what if we are existing digitally on the internet as like a digital being, if you want, and then in a metaverse, which I do agree with, it's an amazing opportunity, or in AI or in any other application, we exist, and the economic benefit being made around us can be to the benefit of the companies in our own country.
So in other words, we create, let's say, a server in the metaverse. The metaverse is a network of 3D virtual entities that are there, and that's what your digital life you're talking about. So if we create the server and it stays within the country, and then a startup or an enterprise creates something like similar to BNB that links to that, so that means the circulation remains in the country. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because right now it's weird. We exist so many times, and every time everything has to be reinvented. How we find information, where the information is, how do we protect it, and so on. And that's not really needed. Imagine we are the data, and there is a standardized interface everyone can use to get to our data. Then you change the full paradigm. So then if we go to a doctor, by design, our digital being goes with us to the doctor, and the doctor will directly work with us. Not on another server somewhere, not on a centralized application. And that has the potential. I know it's a little bit of a mind thing because we're not used to it, right? It's very, very different. But that has the ability to change everything. Now imagine we do that here in this country, and we show how that brings all of that benefit here and how that would be an example for many around us.
Then my next question to Desmond is, would Meta's got servers in Iceland and everywhere, what do you think of this idea of having a local one and localized within the country and only go out when it's necessary? That's beyond that.
So I think the last bit of your question, only when it's necessary, it's about when do you get to have someone's data, why do you have it, for what purpose, and until when? I think those are really, really important questions. There's just two things that I'd like to say. I agree with Christoph on one element, that there is a huge opportunity if our data was consistently collected, stored, and managed. Really, consistency is key to create local innovations. And I would like to twist that a little bit. Instead of, and I think that's where...
When you twist it is the part that you don't agree with him.
No, not necessarily. I think I agree with him from one angle, in that we need to think about innovators in Tanzania going global. And even as regulators, and I've seen regulators in the room, you need to regulate so that Jamii Forum can become a global entity. You know, there's space and value for localized experiences, but there's even greater value for global dominance, even if you start from Tanzania. So that's the one bit. The other bit, even about tourism, think about it this way. If it wasn't for Instagram, there's a lot of people who are tour operators. If it wasn't for Instagram, and Instagram being a global platform, how then would you be able to advertise a service that you provide in Arusha to someone, you know? So there is also value for that data to be in a space where, you know, it's then usable for everybody else. Otherwise, if my experience was only my experience in Tanzania, there's limitations to what can happen or cannot happen with that.
Christoph is shaking his head.
Yeah, no.
I do, for two reasons actually. First of all, regulations is not going to resolve much. Regulations are stifling, and we are not wizards. No matter what regulation we come up with all the best intentions, it happens to go somewhere at the end, it works against us. It's much more about the intent. What do we try to achieve, and how do we do that? And just by doing it differently, we achieve what we want to have. Now, secondly, the argument being used by so many people about you need to be able to publish, do marketing, otherwise they cannot find you. That's exactly the trap. If 30 years ago you had to find something, you would go to a whiteboard, put a post-it, and someone would find the fact that you're trying to sell a bike. How much did that cost? Nothing. That was just a piece of paper somewhere where people could find you. You can publish anything everywhere for free. It does not have to cost any money. We were made used to the fact that we have to pay money. We made used to the fact that it costs money to publish something somewhere, but that's not true. It's literally free to publish anything everywhere for everyone, and it's literally free to allow everyone to find what we have. We can do business for free. We don't have to pay interest. We don't have to pay commission. We can find anything we want everywhere. It's actually a lie to believe that we need these big companies to do that on our behalf. We can do that ourselves. The internet was created that way from the start, but it got hijacked. And we have to go back to that, to the place that we all can publish anything we want in all authenticity and do business for free.
Then there is a question of, to do business, if you are within the country, there must be a value proposition that you have that would want somebody outside global would want. The question is, how do they know about it? And that's what I think what Desmond is talking about. So how do you at least mitigate the two?
It would go beyond the scope of the session here, but these things have been invented. They do exist, actually, for 20, 30 years. We just forgot them. But they do exist. You can easily, on a global scale, billions of people can find everything, and it does not have to be owned by the few. It's actually about ourselves to say, no, we agree, we can do it differently. And as a government and as startups, we just need to say, no, we want that. We don't want to be depending on these platforms, and we want to have literally own our data and have that ability. And it's resolved, really.
Let me turn to Iga. In terms of this discussion, the metaverse and the use in advertising, do you still think that it is free to that extent, or do you how do you sustainably create these applications within the AI space and grow them and scale them up? What is your view with regards to that?
Thank you, Dr. Mulamula. As far as the discussion, I think from the scope of e-government is we will look it in the contents of within the government. But I think if we would go to the level of the national level, I think I think it's important that the data, if it's for commercial reasons, I know there is we have the national ICT, like the National Internet Data Center, which is currently within the country, but they're working on having a solution on a cloud solution. So I would think any product or application, as long as it's within the data center, either physically in the country, it's still accessible everywhere from outside the globe, but also once it's on the cloud, it will be easier, like even for foreigners outside the country. They wouldn't need to maybe physically. Everything could be done online. They could buy their cloud space online. They can have their application online. So I think as a country, as a government, I think we are towards that direction. But I know as we look also into PPP, public-private partnership, we have. I can speak a bit from the side of MNOs, the mobile network operators. I know they have big data centers, which some of them they offer cloud solutions or cloud spaces. So I think as a country we do have the environments ready from the side of the government. Inside the government, we do prefer for the contents to be local for many reasons, but when we look as a government, as a nation, then we are looking into having the cloud solutions or the cloud hosting environment through the National Internet Data Center. Thank you.
We were just brainstorming here. In the meantime, is there a question from the crowd? Yes, Engineer Wangwe. Can we have a microphone to him? Or I have to do it? Ngoja ninyoshe miguu kidogo. Nakuruka kidogo. Ulifikiri nitaanguka? Bwana sijazeeka kiasi hicho.
Yes, good morning to all of you, good morning everyone. I'd like to congratulate presenters, very inspirational thoughts. So I have a question. I read from one article that for metaverse, this virtual reality, that there are some, like the way we allocate spectrum for service providers in some limited space. So I read that even countries are being given space in this metaverse reality environment. I don't know how true that is, and if it's so true, what are we advised to do so that we probably have that space as a country in the metaverse environment? Thank you.
That is for Christoph, I presume.
Well, I'm
is
sure.
Is the question for Christoph?
Well, I think we all can.
For both of you. Okay,
we
fine.
can all can answer.
We can all chip in.
It's a very interesting question, by the way. It's almost a philosophical thing, right? Do we have to pay for space in a virtual world? Right? And then, yeah, and how do we do that? So I don't know the answer on that. Of course, look, I think we're doing beautiful things already, and digital future is amazing. Personally, to me as a person, I would like to be everything to be for free, right? But that's just me as a person, where you just put your things and you can use the metaverse to build anything you want, and it doesn't have to cost. Technically, let me just stay with that, because at the end I'm a nerd technician. Technically, it doesn't have to cost money, right? Being able to expand it and people can add to it is actually virtually free. If there are business models around that certain people want to do something interesting with that, I leave that to other people, of course.
No, I agree. Frankly, I agree. As a person, actually, I need to say, as Desmond, I agree with Christoph, because philosophically, it's must it be finite, and must it cost money? That's the first question. And then, is it tokens? What kind of digital tokens and things like that? But there are people who are buying space on the metaverse. You know, whether, if that's your question, yes, that is true. But I don't think it's sovereign, that this is my national jurisdiction and this is where the border ends. So that's the part that maybe is a little bit different. For me, the issue that I would be thinking about is about intellectual property rights. And someone coming up with a Kilimanjaro or Ngorongoro experience that's probably better than a physical one, and maybe makes more money than Ngorongoro Conservation Area Authority. What then would happen in a situation like that? I frankly don't have the answer to that. I'm sure Meta doesn't as well. But it's an important thing to think about. And the way in which you can actually get ahead of it is to be the innovator. If you are a consumer trying to catch people, that's not a very good place to be. I always say the hand that you exercise the most tends to be the strongest. You know, I have a young son, he uses his left. I'm sure I'll stop him. He'll move to right. And so if you are always ahead of the game, if you're proactive, I think you'll find people asking questions about what you're doing as opposed to you asking questions about what others are doing. So that's the way I would think about it, to be honest. It's create the ecosystem, support people like Honor Stories. There's a lot of innovators in Tanzania. We actually had a metathlon last year across the continent where innovators were innovating within the VR space. And the team that won was from Tanzania, really supported by Honor Story. So there's already a really, really budding ecosystem doing meaningful work. It just needs to be coordinated and supported really, really well.
Then this brings me to my next question. You talk about, you mentioned it, the IP, the intellectual property with regards to what you do with the innovation you have in the realms of AI, VR sense of virtual reality, and the metaverse. And then it also has an impact to the first mover in that space. So then how do we go about educating our startups, our enterprises, to think about that as they create new innovations? Do you think, are we doing enough of that? Do we still have to do more with regards to that?
So the first good bit that I think is happening is that government is innovating. So the work that IGA is doing is really, really great. I was in Ethiopia as well. They have an Ethiopia AI Institute doing really, really meaningful work. There may be one difference between, Tanzania and Ethiopia is, maybe the use of cloud, cloud computing. It's maybe we use it more here than our peers do. The other difference is that there's a lot of awareness about what Ethiopia is doing than there is about what IGA is doing. And for me, this is really where, maybe a lot of things can be gotten with very minimal investment. Is already really good work is happening. Government is innovating, making sure that people are aware of that, and how you've gotten to the place that you are is the first step. And the other bit is what I spoke about towards the end, really thinking about what the ecosystem is like, spaces where people can meet, discuss consistently. I think when Kenya was innovating with M-Pesa, for those of you who've met Bitangendemo, who was the permanent secretary at the time, he kept speaking about Friday, what do you call, roundtables, where they would meet on a Friday basis, every Friday, to discuss what's happening, what should we be doing, and things like informally, and so we don't need to have this session happen every time, but we can have a space where even if it's virtual now, you can do a lot of things in different spaces. Even with, I've used the one that IGA has, Mikutano or something like that. We meet, we discuss and things. So ensuring that it's inclusive, the space is inclusive, that you are clear on what you're doing and you communicate it, because people can see what's possible if they see that it's happening here. That's the first step to ensuring others do the same.
Just one very small thing. I fully agree, by the way. One thing I really hope is that, there are so many wonderful things happening here, and it really, really is. I'm not just saying this to be polite. And that we are more proud to talk about it, to do more public relations. And the metaverse is a very good way how to show that, how to demonstrate that. And I think it's important because that way we have to be more proud. It's not going to come from elsewhere. It needs to come from here.
Which brings me, Madam Sultana, you talked about the applications that are being developed at IGA, and you mentioned a little bit about the R&D. The question I'm asking myself is it open to the public, aside from the non-government entities and the private sector, or it depends?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, like what I mentioned earlier, eGov RID is a public office, so it can be accessible to anyone, both public and private. It's open for anyone, even if you are not working in the government. You are all welcome to visit the center and see what is going on right now, and even if you can bring some more ideas. So anyone is free to access the center at any time.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then...
And the application are free.
Right.
Yeah, to be accessed by anyone.
Dr. Rico.
Thank you. And just to add on that, as it has been presented, actually, it's free to the public. And so far, we have engagement with all the universities within the country, which there's about 21 universities, which are public, private. We do collaborate with all of them, and but also from the younger age. Actually, we did have some few who are in primary schools, but they're into programming, so we have them in the center. We try to do like mentorship programs. So it's free, but also when you look on the private sector, we do collaborate with some of the banks in the country, the mobile network operators, but to individual level, anyone in the country who is interested in research innovation, has some ideas, they are very welcome.
So if they come up with the idea and you develop a platform and you put it on App Store or Google Play Store to use it, is it open to everybody, or is it, for example, e-Mikutano, is it for everybody or is it for the government entities only? I mean, how do you demarcate what is for government and what is for the private and public sector in general?
Thank you so much. Actually, there are some solutions which are for internal government use, but there are some solutions which are for use by the citizens. So, for example, e-Mikutano, it can be used by anyone, but maybe I would give another example which is more practical. For example, we have a system called e-Mrejesho, which is when you translate, it's like e-feedback, but it's more than feedback. It's a system that citizens, they can give, if there's any complaint, if there is any questions they want to ask, if they want to give a recommendation, they want to give like a word of a good service. So it's a platform where any citizen can use either through a mobile app, through the USSD code, or through the website, and a citizen can communicate directly to any public institution. For example, I would give an example. Maybe a citizen can write something to TANESCO using the imrejesho, and it keeps the information. The citizen can decide either to disclose or not to disclose that this is coming from who and who. So we have applications which are for citizen-wide use, and there are some which are just internal for the government use. Thank you.
By the way, I know you're wondering why we're still up here. It's because the guest of honor has arrived and have been asked to continue and wait for him to come back, and then we'll go to the next whatever event that is coming along. So please bear with us. But then this is very interesting information here. So any other question from the floor before I ask my questions? Because I've got plenty of questions and comments. Do we have a lady somewhere who wants to find out? Mtoto ana swali huko jamani. Iko wapi? Aha. Karibu sana.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Salma from Zanzibar Insurance.
Hatukusikii, hebu ongeza kidogo, iweke juu kidogo.
My name is Salma from Zanzibar Insurance Corporations. Nilikuwa nataka nimuulize swali madam. We have been involving different private sectors in international corporations ili kuhakikisha tunafikia kwenye Tanzania ya kidijitali and tuna leverage the most emerging technologies in ICT. My question is, I want to know if we have any legal frameworks ambazo zinasimamia ICT projects, zinasimamia PPPs in ICT projects. Because we know and we believe kwamba private sectors and experienced international corporations zinasaidia kusaidia kwenye enhance our technologies, na wao ndo wako mbele katika kugrasp opportunities ambazo zinakuja na emerging technologies, and in fact it's true, part of it. So due to the nature of the ICT projects, skills, and the nature of the risk of ICT projects, do we have any PPP framework, legal framework, ambayo inasimamia those ICT projects, ili kulinda intellectual properties and consistency the ecosystem ambayo tumecreate?
Okay, I think legal framework means it's policy, means it's the government that needs to answer that. Do you want to comment on that before I say anything?
Yeah, thank you for a nice question. Right now we have e-Government Act, number 10 of 2019, ambao we are considering it as a legal framework which is guiding the implementation of e-government initiative in the public institutions. So that is what we have right now.
Yeah. Yes.
Together with the ICT, National ICT Policy, Cybercrime Acts, and other e-government standard and guidelines that I presented before, which they are accessible through the e-government website.
Rico, or nothing? Right. I think overall there is the National PPP Act, which was revised recently. So I think I would use that. It's my personal opinion. I would use that also, in addition to what Ms. Sultana has said. And also, in terms of your IP, you need to have an NDA and an MOU with the entity that you're signing an agreement with, so that you highlight those issues, particularly when it comes to technology and knowledge transfer to our people here. So that has to be taken into account, so you need to add that in terms of your agreements with them. So that's what I would say. Mashaka is not here. He will have been another good person to answer that question. Yes, go ahead, Desmond.
And I think in addition to what has been said, there is one other element that I think is key, in that some of these innovations, or maybe the enabling space or legal framework for it, have to be reinvented as you go. And a good example, I met one young Tanzanian who's looking to do something like WhatsApp Pay. And to really go through that, there's elements that you think, okay, this is clearly TCRA, but because payment is involved, you think, okay, you also need to talk to BOT, So if you have risk-based frameworks, in general, that would allow for something like that to happen is great. But some of these innovations, I think you cannot legislate innovation. You can create an enabling environment for it. I think that's the same sentiment that Christopher was saying. You can't just create regulations sometimes, almost curtail or throttle innovation. So you need to think about risk-based frameworks that would allow for something to happen. So if I am doing WhatsApp Pay, kama ni, Tanzania Bank, nafanya kama mfano, sina hakika kama nataka kufanya hivyo, what then would that look like? There's elements of cyber security. If it's WhatsApp, you'd think it's with TCRA. If it's Pay, you'd think then there is BOT or central bank for that particular matter. How then do you allow discussions around things like that to happen?
All right. Thank you so much. So now we need to wind down. So, Christoph, 1 minute to give your final observation. What should we do?
We already talked about the fact that, we have to believe in ourselves, so that has already been said. But look, over the last year, we've met quite a lot of startups here, and I was very impressed with how efficient people here were able to use money to create beautiful things with. And if we can find ways, and of course we would be very, very happy to help there, that after that first money, people can find more to be successful. That would be, in my opinion, be amazing, and we hope we can help a little bit here for that.
Thank you. Ms. Sultana? What?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to comment that the government has not been left behind upon adopting the imaging technologies. There are many more efforts that have been made, and there are many researches that are going on. So I would like to encourage my colleague to ensure that we are working closely with the Research and Innovation Center so that we bring more ideas for our government to benefit with ongoing imaging technologies. Thank you.
Mr. Rico, last words, last minute.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mulamula. As my colleagues have just mentioned, I would also like to encourage all to keep participating in the research and innovation, and to keep up with the new emerging technologies. Now we have Internet of Things, but there's also Internet of Medical Things. There are new technologies which are coming up, so let's keep on engaging. And as far as the e-government Research and Innovation Center is open for all, but also from the ministry, there's also the innovation centers which will be across several regions. So let's participate in the research and innovation space, and let's move together as a country. Thank you so much.
Desmond.
Thank you. I think the three things that have been said, just to maybe wind with them. The first thing is we need to sing our praises. The good things that we are doing, we need to make sure that they are known within and beyond Tanzania. That's the first bit. IGA is doing a lot of innovations, but also allow others to innovate within or use through the data that you already have readily available with you, so that homegrown innovators can mushroom every now and then. And the last bit is continuous, consistent, dialogue. Creating space, whether it's e-chat or whatever, where we can come and discuss on things that are happening, how to think about them. We can share and debate ideas so that we can all get to a desired place. But really, really grateful for the opportunity to have been here, and asante sana.
Asante sana. Please, a big hand for the panelists. And we can now get up. Mr. Mongi, tunaruhusiwa kupiga picha kama wengine? Inaruhusiwa, eh? All right, fine. So
the photographers, please do the needful. You're staying far away from Thank you very much. Another round of applause for the panel, please. Sasa ndugu zangu, ni waombe wale ambao mmekaa nyuma, mgeni rasmi ameshafika. Naomba wote tusogee mbele. Yaani picha ikipigwa hapa inaonekana kama tuko Msimbazi Center pale. Naomba wote waliokaa row 3 za mwisho wote wasogee mbele. Kasoro line ya mbele kabisa. Naomba wote, na mgeni rasmi anawasubiri. Naomba yani nyinyi mtakapokuja ndio tutaondoka, tutaanza shughuli. Hata wale mnaocheka kwamba mshikaji ameanza tena kusumbua, wote naomba tusogee mbele. Row 3 za mwisho zote naomba zibaki wazi. Kama unaona huko